In boardrooms and virtual meeting rooms around the world, business leaders are asking, how do we unify our culture when a screen is our only touch point? How do we organize our organizations if there's no there to return to? The question isn't whether change is coming. The question is how to change business for the better. Because today, teams can work effectively from here, here, or here. And being on the same page doesn't have to mean being in the same place. Through digital workspaces, employees are performing their best from any app, any device. Through a virtual cloud network, they have seamless connectivity and experiences wherever they are. And with intrinsic security, data is as safe at the edge as it is at the office. So as we look to the future, maybe it's time to start asking, can we build an organization that works together, even when it's apart? Yes, in fact, we've never been closer. With a digital foundation that treats remote work not as the exception, but as the rule, your organization can work anywhere as one. Because technology has a way of making the distance disappear.
Hi, my name is Faris Kariuki. I'm the host of the Pure Infrastructure podcast. My day job is running Pure Infrastructure, which is a consulting firm. Pure Infrastructure is graciously sponsored by VMware. Today's guest is actually, incidentally, I've known him for a while, several years. He's also a VMware customer. He's Jeremiah Chunge, who's the head of alternative channels and technology at Genghis Capital Limited. Jeremiah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Faris.
So I'll begin with just a background. Who is Jeremiah? How did you get into tech? Like just a brief biography of who Jeremiah is.
Thank you. So Jeremiah is, of course, now a tech professional, but the journey started quite a long time ago. I think after I finished high school, I was not sure if I want to do technology or I want to do, that's those periods when you're trying to decide. And it was almost about the time when the year 2K had come, year 2000, and there's internet and there's computers, and everyone is getting excited about opening a Yahoo email and sending an email here and there. So I think it's something new and fascinating that I'll want to get into and just learn the ropes and see what more can this new excitement and buzz bring to the table. So I decided to do the technology course. Of course, during campus, we formed a small group, started doing IT stuff amongst ourselves, teaching ourselves extra. And I think that passion now developed more until even now we started even teaching some of our colleagues at school some things that we knew that maybe they didn't know or we knew beforehand on the coursework. And I think that's somewhere along the way where we used to now meet in Nairobi for Skunkworks meetings.
Skunkworks meetings. That was 14 years ago.
14 years ago, yes.
14 years ago,
For Skunkworks meetings, everyone coming, sharing their ideas, talking about the new technologies out there, what's coming up. So that kept the excitement and bubble, burning. And once I finished, of course, that was the channel and direction I was going to. And throughout, I've been progressively building experience from being a solid tech, hands-on on programming and shell scripting and networking to now managerial and leadership roles and overseeing now deployment of digital strategies, automation, and the likes. So that's been the journey and very excited to follow through in different sectors, NGO, financial services, automotive. It's been brilliant. Yes.
Wow. And so how did you end up at Genghis and what does your day job at Genghis look like?
Yes. So I ended up at Genghis 4 years ago. That was mid-2017. I was in a different company before then, which was doing purely technology deployments for mobile development, mobile app development. And once the opportunity for Genghis came knocking, which they had approached me. So I looked at what they wanted to do, and I'd never worked in a financial services sector, banking, investment banking, SACCO, never. And I used to dread it a bit because I used to not be a big fan of suits, wearing suits. And as a tech, you want to be there you are. So, and also the industry was a bit behind in terms of efficiency, automation. So I knew what I was going to get into. But I decided, sometimes you have to roll up your sleeves and go in and see what you can do to improve what's there. So I decided, let me take it up as a challenge to also make myself be of value to an industry and organization, and see what can be done to see if it's possible to do it or not. There's no harm in trying. So I joined mid of 2017, and immediately I had to formulate a strategy, a technology strategy, because first we have to deal with first things first. And my role and day-to-day duties actually is two-faced. As per the title, head of alternative channels, that's now on business development side, and then head of technology is now on internal technology operations and efficiencies between departments and the likes, and also the general operation of the company. So being two-faced, I have to plan my day and make sure whatever needs to be running in technology, whether it's our infrastructure, whether it's our security, whether it's the alerts that keep coming because of cybersecurity monitoring, everything. There's no red light in terms of downtime and all that. And making sure projects that are going on, especially internal projects on the internal technology role, are also at par, and nothing is pending as far as a deadline that was supposed to be met. Or if you're overshooting a deadline, you have to replan or see how to meet that. Then on the alternative channel side is now developing solutions that now interface the business to the clients. So whether it's a mobile app, whether it's a web portal, whether it's partnerships with different ventures. So that's another channel where also there are projects on that side, and also almost complementing the roles and duties, but now this one being external.
Okay. So if I'm to paraphrase that, if I understand you correctly, the alternative channels role is basically a way of using technology to improve customer reach.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And what will be some of the highlights you've had, like in your career, over the last 4 years? Because it's mid 2021.
Actually, yes.
So it's almost exactly 4 years.
Exactly 4 years. Yes. I've had very good career highlights. I think as soon as I joined in 2018, in 2017, I think a month after I joined, we did a revamp of our infrastructure. I found quite old servers that were still running the business, and of course the challenges of power blackouts or power surges, and servers maybe restarting because of overheating, or maybe the AC didn't restart when the power stripped and then the generator peaked. So there were some delays in even executing our mandate to clients, because if it's on a weekend and people are not in the office, or if it's after office hours, people just left at 5 and something happens, then either you have to wait up to the next day, or you have to go back to the office to solve something. So one of the first things that we did in the technology strategy is to now revamp this infrastructure and redeploy a data center that's now fully cloud instead of on-premise data center. And at that time, we had various vendors who pitched, and we settled at the vendor who understood what we wanted to do. I think you're part of it to some extent. And so we deployed a fully cloud data center within the first 1 month that I was at Genghis Capital. And it was a success. We were also shifting offices. And as soon as we shifted to the new office over the weekend, we deployed the on-prem to the cloud. And we were able to work from the following Monday without any downtime. Of course, with the backing and support of the regulator, as well as the Nairobi Securities Exchange, because we have to
interface with all of them.
We have to make sure we consult them, and also we have to make sure that clients can be able to to work and access their services, and staff can also work. So that was a success. That was in 2017. 2018, we were actively involved in building our own internal mobile app. And that one primarily wanted to make sure that clients don't need to physically come to the office to open an account, to be a client, or to trade, or to have a query assisted, or even email to ask for statement, or call to find out what is a stock, which one do I buy, or what is unit trust and all that. And we opted to digitize the full onboarding process on the mobile app, which hadn't been done at the time by any player. And we went to the regulator, of course, explained why we want to do it. They gave us a go ahead, and we were able to have the pilot done within 2018. And 2019, we rolled out the mobile app, which has been doing fantastic the last 2-3 years now. Yes. And then adding to that, towards the end of 2018, early 2019, our regulator was was preparing to launch the CMA Sandbox, that's Capital Markets Authority. And they invited different participants in the market to be part of the process before they even launch. So we gave ideas on what we thought, as technology professionals, what we thought should be included and all that in 2018. So 2019, they rolled out the Sandbox program, the CMA Sandbox program. And one of the highlights, which is also public on the CMA site, is we were the first to join the CMA Sandbox to test a solution on it, and also the first to exit, which they also gave us no objection for the same.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. And so, so I have a number of questions off of that. Number one, how do you convince? So, part of the audience of this podcast is CIOs. How do you convince management to move from sort of like the traditional way of working, where like the servers are here, we know we can see them, to just move into a purely cloud environment? Because that's remarkable. And then secondly, how do you convince the regulator? Because that's also another wild card. Because I know that there are quite a number of residency and environment, there's a lot of regulation around the environment in which you run your IT infrastructure. So these are sort of like things people struggle with on a day-to-day basis. How do you handle management? How do you handle risk? How do you handle the regulator? While at the same time pleasing the customer? It's like a tension that's very difficult to
break through. So actually, that was the biggest challenge that we had to, or I had to come up with a way to maneuver around. Number one is to get the buy-in of the management, and by doing so, you have to show the benefits, pros and cons. Put on-prem on this one side, data center on the cloud on another side, and do a line-by-line justification of why A is better than B. Of course, moving off to the cloud is better than being on-prem, and justifying how you are going to protect the data, the locality. Quite a number of them ask you, you're moving into the cloud. We don't see it rightly, as you asked, you don't see the servers. How do we know where it's hosted and all that? So there are various data centers locally in Kenya that you can move, your data and still host it within country. Number three, you have to convince them about latencies, issues, technical skills required to sustain that on-prem vis-a-vis on cloud infrastructure. The know-how that's already there in the industry of practitioners who are doing it. The costs, because number one thing about on-prem services, they have end of life and they have end of support. So every 3 years or so, 2 to 3 years, you'll have to be changing your hardwares, you have to be upgrading your softwares. Those are costs that you have to incur immediately as CapEx, capital expenditure. Vis-a-vis, a cloud model where you have an OpEx expense, where just you're given a monthly fee that you run with throughout the year, and you'll never have to worry about your hardware and software going out of shape. And then once you package all this, you have to break it down in very simple layman terms to them, because they're not purely tech guys to throw big words to them. So you really have to break it down. Once you have that buy-in, you also have to have the buy-in of the staff, because those are almost like my clients, internal clients, So you have to also talk to the staff, make them understand why this is important, what benefit will it even bring to themselves, how will their work be better, how can they be able to execute and work even off the office. And then once that's done, now it's to convince the board, the board of directors, because the buy-in has to be top down. So the board of directors also need to understand, why are we doing this investment? What's the need for the company? How does it align to the business goals and mission of the company? Does it help the company achieve the milestones that it's setting? So you show how that migration is not just to go and shout on top of the hill that I'm a cloud-based company, but it's actually aligning to the business goals and objectives of the company. And you actually demonstrate how it will help facilitate or fast track achievement of some of those goals. If it's fast to market, if it's quick to fail, so that you learn what to do quickly, if it's deployment of applications, if it's security, all those packaged now in very simple way for them to understand. And once all of this is gelled in together, now is to the regulator. And at the time, no one had done that in the industry. So it was a very foreign this is a very foreign pitch that we had to put in front of the regulator. Luckily, if you know what you're talking about and you've broken down to very simple explanations to the staff, to the board, to the management, then to the regulator is also an easier conversation, because in the same simple terms, you're trying to show them you are doing an innovation still in compliance with the regulations that are there, and also trying to bring efficiency and actually even better risk management and audit trail for anything that the regulator needs to have a look at, or if they need to trail a transaction, if they need to audit a certain occurrence, it's much transparent and much easier. So it was a pitch that we had to do, and it actually got them excited, and they said, we are not too sure if it will work or not, but you seem to believe it will. So we'll give you that leeway, but if it doesn't, then we'll come for you.
Wow.
So I had to make sure then, it works, and put all the pieces and stuff together. And, we executed, and it was a great success. In fact, they didn't believe it's working until they had to send someone
to see
physically to the office and say, are they really working? Is everything good? And the representative said, this is fantastic. I think this is something also the other players need to look at. Even the Nairobi Securities Exchange sent someone and said, hey, can you just verify? Things are running there, and they're impressed. And it actually led to some changes and improvements by the regulator, trying to push players to now adopt that. And also by the Nairobi Securities Exchange, they now use that as a benchmark for the recent process they've been doing on also migrating their infrastructure to the cloud. And I saw also our regulator has floated, a tender to do migration to the cloud for all their services. So I mean,
so you basically were a catalyst to the entire industry moving.
Yes.
And so if I can take one thing out of that, it's just expectations management, two things rather, and communication.
Totally. Yes.
And I'll ask another question, because there are two sort of highlights that I'm sort of aware of from this. What was the impact of the adoption of technology on the bottom line of the business? Did it actually lead to increased customer usage or increased revenue from customers rather?
Yeah.
And secondly, you are one of the few who was prepared for COVID. So just talk me through what that was. And I don't think you were. I don't think anyone knew that that's what they were preparing for at the
Yeah,
time.
yes.
It's just, COVID comes and somehow you are the only ones who could actually
Yeah.
um,
Continue
functioning normally.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they moved to cloud and deployment of some of the products that we did, the mobile app as an example. It has brought tremendous impact to the business. Number one, by the time I joined in 2017, our client base was about 14,000 clients.
Yeah.
By us moving to the cloud, and that's after about 8 years of operation, 14,000 clients. By us moving to the cloud and deploying our mobile app, as well as the product that we did the sandbox program with at Capital Markets Authority sandbox program, we've grown our client base more than what we had. We're now having over 40,000 clients.
Wow, you've almost tripled it.
Exactly.
Wow.
Within almost just shy of 3-4 years.
Wow.
Compared to now, previously when we had to, 8 years doing manual process to acquire those 14,000 guys.
Yeah.
Number two, if you look at the volume that has moved through, for instance, the mobile app in 2019 and 2020.
Yeah.
We've done over $1.5 million worth of transactions.
Wow.
Which was never there because there was never a mobile app.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So that's really amazing, and it's an additional asset under management growth for the business.
Yeah.
And 2020 was a fantastic year actually for the mobile app. Where we saw massive adoption. People were looking for where to interact online and digitally, and be able to put some money somewhere. And the people who were ready and functional and been making noise was ourselves, and it actually did tremendous. We had a budget or a target that we'd set for 2020, which we did more than 300% of the target of what we had budgeted for the performance of the app in 2020. Yeah. And I mean, if you look at now, even just this year, the last 5 months, we've already we are almost surpassing what we did the full year of 2020,
which was also the best year.
A good year. Yeah. Wow. So it's pretty good to show that preparation, gave us the opportunity and also aligned the business to, the future of where the business and financial technology is going. Yeah. On the other front, regarding COVID preparation, which is actually, it happened, those are some of the justifications I was giving in 2017 to the management, to the board, to the Capital Markets Authority, telling them in the event of a pandemic or a natural calamity.
Yes. You want to be able to work from anywhere.
You want to be able to work from anywhere. When you have staff going to a meeting, you don't need the staff to be in a meeting and call the office and say, can you check for me statement for so-and-so so that I can advise him on a product XY? They can have their machine there. So long as they have internet, there's a secure connection, a VPN connection, virtual private network connection, connecting the tunnel to the data center, and they're able to access anything as if they are in the office. So by that deployment, and already staff embracing it and using it prior to what happened last year in March with the COVID-19 pandemic, we were already accustomed to eventuality in the event even the office is not accessible, or someone has traveled, or you're even maybe you have overseas trip. You can still be able to put on your machine. You only need internet access, and you have your secure connection and work as if you're in the office. So when March last year came, with the directions that are given for people to work from home, social distancing, we just had a discussion with our risk department and pulled up the business continuity plan, which by the virtue of the setup of what we had as a remote ready infrastructure, we just now executed the processes of what we had set prior to do the work from home deployment. And mind you, since 2017, every year we were doing tests just to make sure, in case something happens at the office or just regardless, in case something happens, you're able to work. Even we have a main data center and a disaster recovery center, a backup center. So we kept doing tests to make sure, in case even the main data center is not working, you're able to work off the data center for even the backup data center for even a week, then switch back. Although staff might not realize, but it was that seamless. So we were very ready in terms of business continuity. And come March, we just gave that as a directive. Guys went home and everyone continued working like normal. In fact, even as we speak, I think 90% of our employee, or 95%, still work from home since March last year. Yeah.
So do you still have a physical office?
Yes, we do. There's a skeleton staff that still, work from the office, especially those who need to do any one or two customer-facing attendance and getting a few things done. But most of the things we had automated, whether it's payments to clients, whether it's access to products, whether it's meetings, we had all that sorted. So just continue with your reporting, your timelines, your innovations that you're working on, and rather than trying to scramble and run around and wonder will you set up, who will access what, which laptop do you give who, how do you set up security? We didn't have those problems. Yes.
Wow. And so you're basically like the gold standard for what people say happens when you have digital transformation. Like you are able to have agility.
Yes.
You've generated revenue, and at the same time, you've saved cost for the organization.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, like, the next question is sort of tangentially related to this, but actually it's directly related. What feedback, what advice would you give, like from your experience over the years?
Yes.
Like to CIOs who want to spearhead transformation, and it's kind of related to the question I'd asked you earlier.
Yeah.
Like, what piece of advice will you give them? Because you've managed to do it in probably the most dodgy industry there is. People still pay you in checks. Like they still produce physical checks, and they still.
Yes.
But you've somehow been able to convince a regulator, an investment bank, and your customers that digital first is the way to go.
Yes.
So you've kind of, you're the consummate CIO. Like, this is what people are told a CIO should do.
Yes.
So what advice will you give? Like, how do you do what you did? Just in general. Because it's a combination of skills. Like knowing distribution, technology distribution is a separate skill from like traditional just running your tech.
True. Yeah. I think the advice I'll give is the CIOs should stop thinking of themselves as a technology person only. They should think of themselves as a business enabler. So you're not just making sure there's networking done and there's Wi-Fi and there are new servers and softwares running. You are more looking towards how does technology play in the space that I am in to accelerate it to achieve its targets, its timelines, its market share, its customer satisfaction, its growth, and how do I marry that, those targets, those strategies, using technology to make it a reality, and how do I make it simpler so that once it's simpler you can do more. Once it's complex you do less because your head is buried under the sand trying to figure out the manual processes and headaches running around. So you actually get past with what's happening out there because you're just focusing on your own technology as a department. So I urge them to think of themselves as enablers of businesses to achieve their goals.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, COVID just came and proved to everyone that without technology,
Yeah.
you are really suffering during the last couple of months.
Yeah.
And in any field, it doesn't need to be financial services. In fact, the future of businesses right now is technology-driven approach.
Yeah.
So CIOs need to think of themselves as drivers of the business, not just a support department in the business. So once you start thinking of yourselves as the drivers of the business, then you start thinking strategically. And now when you think strategically, now you break it down into how technology plays in which compartments. Is it at department level? Are you bringing efficiency whereby, for instance, instead of someone going to the bank, they deposit money, then come to, or send an email with a deposit slip to finance. Then finance maybe will see it today or not, or maybe tomorrow, and then they'll check their bank statements the next day and wonder where this money coming from. Then they check the emails, say, oh, there's a deposit slip, then they allocate. See, that's already 24 hours gone. Yet you can have that process automated right up to the bank level. As soon as the customer deposits, it doesn't need to send you a banking slip and all that. Of course, they give a reference and everything at the bank. That these APIs, so you use an API to directly integrate to your system, and it automatically receipts within a few seconds. And the customer can even see it on their, on their wallet that it's receipted, and they can make a transaction or a trade. So it number one saves even time for that finance guy. Instead of running statements and looking at emails to do reconciliations, that problem is gone. And turnaround time for the client, he doesn't have to sit and wait and call and say, hey, I deposited money, you guys have not allocated it or have not confirmed, or So you look at now how do you help the business internally to be efficient, and then how do you also help the client to see value, being your client, to see value out of that, and then how do you now enable now the business to align towards now the common goal of what you want to achieve? Because once you solve these pain points, then you're able to focus as a business to do strategy in the long term. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
And so one more sort of question, actually two more questions regarding this. You're a VMware reference customer. In that VMware basically saw what you've done, published, and I believe you presented at VMworld in 2020.
Yes, I did.
Why did you choose a VMware-based cloud? And sort of what has your experience been with?
Yes.
With them?
Yeah, actually, the journey with VMware started as far back as 2017 when we were starting the journey for migration. And they've been a very active and guiding kind of a partner, whereby it's more of a relationship rather than an organization pushing a product. By that I mean, they look at what you want to achieve. They understand your problem first, and then they tell you this is the option that will help solve ABC, and these are the options on how to go about it. So it's been a very, it's more like a partnership towards our transformation journey, rather than a vendor, dumping a solution to you and making a sale. Exactly. So through that, we've been having for even additional deployments we've been doing, of course, by even doing modern application modernization on the cloud environment. They give you the options of what do you need to look at, and what are the advantages of developing an application that is cloud ready on the Kubernetes, for instance, and how do you go about it? So it's been a very warm relationship all through, and that's why I've been very proud to be a reference customer and speak in the events, both international and local, at different levels, because quite a number of times you find there's a disconnect between the vendors who are or the partners who've been mandated to do some work on digitization or automation by not understanding the customer needs first. So as soon as they hear you want to go to cloud, they just bombard you with a whole pack of things that they want to push through to you, and maybe you even don't have even any application that's Kubernetes ready, or you don't have but you sold it to it as a pack. They also were understanding to look at our budget and see how do you accommodate
your requirements.
So that has been the advantage, and it's a very big advantage in terms of building a relationship with your client, us being their client, and walking the journey to help you achieve your dream, in the digitization journey. So it's been a very good relationship.
Yeah, and then the next question is, what next? Like, what other projects are you working on? If you're free to speak about them, and
well, I can speak at least on one which is in the public domain. We did a project that we admitted into the Sandbox program in 2019. The project is called Mali. CMA, the Capital Markets Authority, Sandbox program had just been launched, and we had gotten into, or rather, one of the things that I was looking to do is get, number one, our infrastructure right. Number two, deploy the mobile apps to enable our clients to be able to digitally transact and automate payments and the likes, and also be able to chat with us inside the app. Then number three, build partnerships, because that's where the synergies are going to be. You can't do everything alone. So one of the partnerships which we had been pursuing and got to start was with Safaricom on doing the investments, USSD, mobile powered investments for money market. So it will be the first in the market. We did the Sandbox program, which was fantastic. Actually, I really applaud the Capital Markets Authority for how they guided us even in the Sandbox program. There's a whole document that the Capital Markets has done on the Sandbox report, which they released, I think, about 2 months ago. It's on their website, on the Capital Markets Authority website, which even details the journey of what we were doing on the Sandbox. And they allowed us to test, iterate, make changes here and there. It didn't, of course, even start with the name Mali. It's explained in the document. It started with a different name. We got customer sentiments and changed the name along the way. We started with the different minimums for investments. Then we realized in the market people can do more, so we made adjustments. So they allow you to test, iterate, make changes, go back to the market, have a feel of what guys are thinking about, then continue iterating until you get the right fit. And once we did that and achieved the milestone that we had set, we were able to exit the Sandbox. The advantage also of being in the Sandbox was that they allowed extension. At the time we asked for an extension while you were in the Sandbox, to be able to also make a few changes to the product, especially that time for the name change. So they allowed for the extension, and we made a few changes on the name, the structure, the process, just to make it simpler. Small things like even timeouts of USSD. Sometimes if you're not too keen and you're doing something on USSD and timeouts, you're locked out. So how do you increase the timeout to the maximum to avoid drop-offs along the way? Because we had noticed that earlier. So we were able to do that. We completed and went back to the regulator, the CMA, and we demonstrated to them. Of course, every week we used to send them updates and reports, and then we used to have bi-weekly and bi-monthly meetings. So twice a month we used to go there, sit, discuss, say these are the challenges, these are what the things we've learned, and the advantage also is it gave us an opportunity to ask the regulator for some few changes in regulation to accommodate digital collective investment schemes, digital CIS regulation, because most of what was there was accommodating a traditional or a manual collection investment scheme. one thing I can maybe pinpoint, which actually COVID again came to prove right, is the fact that we told the regulator, if we'll be doing, we need to do AGM, annual general meetings, for anyone who's in a collection investment scheme, like the unit trust product, Mali. And we told them we will not be able to do an AGM if this product, for instance, has 10 million clients or a million clients. There's no stadium that can hold a million clients. So we said we need an exemption and a change in the regulation to allow for us to do a digital AUM. So you do an online conference and you're able to invite, the members to be able to participate and run the AGM. Which they obliged. They actually agreed, and they said, actually, that's a good point. And that was way before COVID started. And so as soon as COVID started, and everyone was now running around with the traditional unit trust, looking to do online AGMs. But it's something we already seen, as the way to go. So they were kind enough to allow that, and also make a few other regulatory changes just to accommodate, a digital-driven collective investment scheme. So that's, at least that's in the public domain, and we'll advise, of course, on the official launch date. But it's a fantastic product.
Yeah, I can imagine. And
Yes.
I think, like, separately, you really should write about how to engage regulators. Because we keep seeing people running afoul of them, and
Yes.
people complaining about the
Yeah.
shackles of the regulation.
Oh,
But you
yes.
seem to have figured out how to navigate it. And they seem to be, like, from the look of it, they're very forward thinking.
Actually, they are. When I came to the industry, I was also, of course, told, fear the regulator, they don't just go there with anything. Technology, they don't like technology, and, some things they won't allow. But I said, I think if you have that mentality, you have a mental block. So you might be forced to do things, the wrong way or as is. And then something like COVID comes, and then you're, scattering around like a headless person. So it's good to show that there is proactivity. And once I started approaching them, even from the time we were starting the cloud migration 2017, so long as you break it down to the regulator and justify why, and then show them you've done risk management, then show them you're complying with the regulations in whatever you're trying to do, then show them the benefit, even to them as a regulator, and then to the market in general. They are more than willing to accommodate, listen, and give you a go ahead. Or if there's something they need clarification, they'll tell you, give us a few minutes or a few days or a couple of weeks. We internalize, or they'll tell you need to include X or Y, so that we can at least give you a go ahead. So it's more of like you're building a relationship, because the regulator is not there to police you with a Ken and look at where you are, and the way, like, maybe it's in high school, and if you're not running, if the teacher is standing there, you're punished. No, they're there to actually guide the market participants to operate, of course, within the regulations. But it's in the best interest of the regulator to see growth and to see success. So once you demonstrate that and build that relationship, then they actually now start working with you, because they see you're not coming to them to show them, they always are bad. You as a regulator, you're backward. You're not doing that. You're actually just saying there's this new new way of doing things. These are the benefits. This is how I've thought through. This is how it falls within the regulation. This is how it opens up, because all regulators want, market deepening, to be relevant in the market, to so look like they're doing their work. So you also show this is how you're opening up the market. This is how you're bringing longevity, so that, a regulator then wants the businesses they're regulating to die. Of course, the longer they're there, the longer they're relevant. So by working that and building that relationship, then they become approachable. They listen. Even if they don't know something, they'll tell you, give us time, we'll learn about it, then we'll come back to you, or justify it to us, or show us, or walk us through They'll ask all questions, all manner of questions. It's not a walk in the park, of course, if you go there. So you must know what you're doing. But they're willing to listen. They don't victimize. They really give you a good hearing. Even by the time they were doing the sandbox program before they launched, they invited participation and to give comments. And I was very happy to see that they actually implemented, the sentiments that were aired by different players on what to include. And when they see that you are doing something progressive, they also encourage you, of course, to play within the regulations or to advise what changes needs to be done in regulations to accommodate a few things that you're doing, which is very, very positive. And if people understood the advantage of having a sandbox program in a regulatory environment, you will take full advantage of digital transformations, accelerations, testing. And it's not a must to go to the sandbox to have a success. You can go there, test, fail, so that you know this thing will not work. Try another before you take it to market. So rather than take it to market and fail, and then you have issues here and there. So it's a brilliant thing, and it's a good thing for people to embrace the regulator and have them as friends rather than enemies. In progress. Yes.
Oh. And final question, what opportunities do you see in the markets that you feel people should take advantage of?
There is a lot of opportunities. Number one, even us, despite looking like we've done quite much, we've not even scratched the surface yet. There's a lot. There's a lot of emerging technologies. There's blockchain technology, which is the big hype right now. And it's not just a hype. I think the adoption is happening to some extent in different sectors. Even if you look at overseas, banks are adopting it. HSBC, StanChart overseas are adopting blockchain for some of their functions to just facilitate, accelerate the way they do things. There's data mining, data analytics. There's a lot of data that sits with these institutions that have been in operation for, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, that they don't mine that data. For instance, you can be a client. People think KYC, know your client, is just onboarding. KYC is actually knowing your client after you've onboarded. So how do you know when he deposits money, how frequent, how much does he withdraw, around what time, what are his interests, does he like shares or stocks investment, does he like bonds, so how do you educate them on that line? How do you walk them through to understand what's happening and what you're also doing? So knowing your client now becomes, you look at now those behavioral characteristics from the data that you have. So that's also something that's to a great extent not happening or not happening yet. There's AI, artificial intelligence. There's a lot that can be done on artificial intelligence side, from onboarding to internal business processes to interaction with your clients to having, if it's chatbots to respond to basic questions, or to query and give you a response. I need my statement and all that, and it validates and gives you feedback. There's gaming. Gaming is picking up a lot across the world. You realize, for instance, in Africa, the population is mostly between 18 to maybe 28, the largest population that's growing. And these people are gamers. They like gaming. They like interacting to have a look and feel of something before either they get in or before they understand it. And that translates even to kids now. A kid cannot be talking, but can open your code on your phone or swipe a tablet and find the game that they're looking at or the particular application. So how do you bring that into the environment of investments or interaction with customers? There's augmented reality happening. How do you and show someone, this is the journey in investments that you need to do. If you started 10 years ago, 20 years ago, this is what would have happened. I mean, COVID got people off guard and people realized I need to be having savings or something on the side, not to move up country when, a pandemic hits suddenly. And then you realize, okay, I hadn't seen if, in augmented reality, it can even take you to see 10 years ahead. If you did X, what would have happened? Or if you did Y, or if you put money aside and invested in a business, what would have happened? So there's so much that's still not happening in the sector, even as some of those we've just started doing. And that's the direction of opportunities that I think companies should focus on, because if you're still like running legacy systems, you're still on premise, you're killing your business.
Okay.
Yeah. So if there's all these things that even most companies are not doing, but that's the future. So once you implement them, there's so much opportunities, and clients, the new clients who are coming up, how are you preparing your organization to serve them? The people who are growing up with tablets as kids. I mean, some of us, we started seeing phones in campus and later on, and computers interacting maybe in high school or campus. But these kids learn those things before even going to kindergarten, before even speaking. So how are you accommodating that whole generation that's coming up in the future or longevity of the business? So those are the opportunities that I see in the sector, and the accelerations that need to happen. Yes.
So thank you so much, Jeremiah, for the wide-ranging conversation and quite a number of lessons on everything from innovation to regulation to business.
Yes, thank you.
I'm definitely looking forward to having you on again after some time.
Anytime.
Okay.
I'll be glad to.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for tuning into the Pure Infrastructure Podcast. There will be episodes every 2 weeks. See you next time.